right. Welcome to the show, folks. Got a new one for you tonight. Write it down in a song. Write it down in a song and you can't go wrong. That's what the therapist said to me. She said write it in a song and tell them what was wrong. Tell them what's in your heart. Can't be a crime. Put it in a song and you can't go wrong. Put it in a song, it can't be a crime. You're trying to get a truth told, can't be wrong. So she told me to put it in the song. Out to your lawmakers if you can. Plead for them for help on YouTube, man. Maybe Bernie Sanders or Biden will care. Or old Mr. Trump fall out of his chair. Indian workers crying out that there is no doubt. Write it down, put it in a song. When you write it down, you can't go wrong. Put words in your head, get it out. If you gotta scream and shout, share it with the ones you think would care. But boy, you know it, they're trying to put you in jail. I cried out to Bernie Sanders for some help. Said, brother, can you put in words the letter you wrote to me? You put lip service on the ground. So let your sheep on pushing me around. I pleaded to you, man. Please speak up, Mr. Senator, man. That's right. Welcome to the show, folks. That's tonight's show, the start of it, and it's pretty much what it says in the title there. Sawant of Seattle, city councilwoman, and Berniecrats try to silence injured workers as we cry out for minimum federal standards and for calling out Senator Sanders for being two-faced as we pleaded for him to speak out on our federal human rights issue and our needed workers' national comp commission that he told us we needed in 2015 in a letter, but never did mouth those words as he ran for 2 presidential cycles. So now as I call out folks on Kashmir Sawant's page, where I'm sharing with her and begging her to get honest with America's workers about the needed minimum federal standards, as she cries out for whole Washington and Med for all and 15 an hour, yet she said we're told that she's a city councilwoman and she can't speak up about work comp issues on a federal level. Speaks up for every other issue on a federal level and puts federal rights before states' rights, but when injured workers want them to put states' rights or federal human rights before the Alec Bisman states' rights, Sawant sides with the Alec Bisman at the end of the day. And when I have Berniecrats and them they're putting in the office of city council women that are trying to jail me and silence me, rather than call out Senator Sanders and Sawant herself for not speaking up about the needed minimum federal standards, as we've lost 15% of our grand bargain nationally across this country over the last 5 years. It's egregious at this point. And so what I want to share with people is the arrogance that I come across when I try to deal with some people, and how I'm going to do that. I guess I'm going to try and switch over here to transfer over here, and we'll try and make that small for a second. And I want to bring up this other page I thought I had here. Well, maybe I'm not going to be able to. Well, it looks like I'm not going to be able to do that. And I'll probably try and edit this out then if I can. So, instead, I'm going to make that small for a second. And I think you are seeing me, so then I'm going to go, and try and open it another way here. There it is. It is there. Okay, there we go. As I try to get help from Sawant's people, and I tried to reach out to her on her city councilwoman's page. This person, Chris Leone, who claims to be a union member out of New York with the union ITSE, that's for the movie or theater union in some way. He's a sound engineer, and his name is Chris Leone, and his comments back to me is basically to belittle me, be arrogant, and say, oh, your issue's important, but you're going about it the wrong way by advocating this way, by trying to call out Sawant and spamming her page with your information. I'm sorry. We have tried to get a hold of people through the grassroots level, like Jason Call for Congress, who is my local PCO, and a Berniecrat, who have all stood in our way all the way along and have not helped us. So it's this arrogance that I get from this gentleman like Chris Leone, where they pretty much come out and tell you, you know, the calling people names and repeatedly spamming the same post over and over again is the reason your posts get reported. It has nothing to do with your stand. No, it has everything to do with the stands. This man, instead of helping me, will belittle me and say, oh, it's a good issue, and yes, it's an issue that we all should, you should need to get addressed, and you should reach out to people, and you should talk to people and network with people. We've done that. I share with them the Work Comp Stories page that we have, that we've got 5,000 injured workers networked across this country, trying to get their voices heard, and Sawant to hear us, and Sanders to hear us, but they refuse to. So this is egregious when it's our own liberal left who are standing in the way of workers getting the truth told in America about our needed minimum federal standard. So I'm going to try and switch back over here, and I'll just leave it at that. And the guy continues on to, here's what I'm getting at. Let me come back to that, see if I can get us back to the main thing here. I'll come back over here. There we go. Okay, now, what I'm getting at is what happens is when you're trying to get help from these people, even my own liberal side, they will block your comments as being abusive, and they will entice you into fighting with them so that they can mark your comment abusive. And the same on the other side, they will do the same thing to injured workers too, as you try to get a truth told about the minimum federal standards. Each side will shut you down and shut you out so you don't get heard. And when Senator Sanders and Berniecrats and our revolution candidates are all trying to silence me rather than get this truth told, there's something wrong with that in America today. And so I call foul on Senator Sanders and him remaining silent. Senator Patty Murray has remained silent, and then Representative Rick Larson has also been silent, as I have begged for their help, as they've watched SSDI Bill rape me and my family money for 3 years, money that was due me, I was duly entitled to, that I had begged of help from Senator Sanders and Patty Murray and all of them to please step up to the plate and help us here. No, this is egregious. When I've got young Berniecrats across this nation claiming to be union members, and union members themselves like UConn Blog out in New York as well, and the AFT Teachers Union, Randy Gardner, can't get honest and put the minimum federal standards on the table because we got state lawmakers they seem to be in bed with, like Bob Halsagawa, who want to tell us, oh, well, we don't need the federal oversight, and this will substitute for federal oversight, and that substitutes for federal oversight. No, sir, Bob Halsagawa. You need to pull your ass out of the state Alec Bisman's ass long enough to represent labor and men who work in this nation, like the bus drivers you used to represent and used to apparently be, but maybe you were an admin and not really a bus driver for the most part. The way it ends up most of the time when you see you guys transferring from being one of the workers into this unions that seem when you go to help injured workers ask for help, you send us to these things like we got here in Washington State, the Pride Project. It doesn't do a thing for injured workers except refer us to lawyers who then won't help us if there's no third party with deep pockets to do. But the point today is how I have Berniecrats and city council women who are Berniecrats trying to silence Mr. Fonso and injured workers seeking the minimum federal standard and calling out Senator Sanders in America and President Biden for not speaking up about our needed minimum federal standards and basic human rights. One man has an arm amputated, gets $35,000 in one state. In another state, they get $750,000 for the same amputated on-the-job injury part. There's something wrong with that. There's an inequality. You don't get to preach and brag about inequality and states' rights versus federal rights and federal rights versus states' rights when you don't want to address a war on injured workers and the minimum federal standards that America's workers have needed since before 1972. So it's egregious when we have this going on, and Kashmir Sawant can't speak up for workers in America, or Jason Call, or Tyler Vega, or Pramila Jayapal. You should be ashamed of yourself when people and workers have come up from the bottom begging for help from you people, when you all say you're going to listen to the people from the bottom, but you're not. You're taking your orders from the people at the top and the people who run your local communities and your local towns and your local municipalities. When the Berniecrats that are being put in the city council positions would rather silence you and jail you than get this truth told to America, then there is something wrong at the local level, and the Berniecrats at those local levels who seem to be only buying Bernie Sanders' populist flag to put in their little biz whores, who don't want to represent workers as we rise up and speak out and say, this is what's harming us, this is what needs to be done. Please put it on our table now, not 50 years from now. Not state by state. We needed this done a long time ago. And this telling us to wait as you're going to get Med for All or you're going to get whole Washington is no longer a viable excuse. Sawant not speaking up. They say her friends and fans say, well, she's just a city councilman. Well, she speaks up about 15 an hour nationally. She speaks up for Med for All nationally. She speaks up for whole Washington when she's just a Seattle city council member. So she could speak up for these other multitude of issues, but not for injured workers. And not for workers in general, because this harms us all, because 1 in 4 of us can be hurt or harmed on the job in our lifetimes and have to face the SSDI and work comp gauntlet that many of us are having to endure. And that's why it's so egregious that Senator Patty Murray and Rick Larson aren't stepping up to help, as well as I had my own government agents like SSDI Bill trying to rape me for 3 years and put me through mental health angst and anguish through being forced to be my own pro se lawyer when they all know I have mental health conditions. Now I have Seymour, who's tied in with Rick Larson, administration firing me from my mental health therapist and my Dr. Love. Yes, his name's Dr. Love. But anyways, I got along with the doctor, I got along with my therapist. The problem here was Seymour administration, behavioral health, who's taking my Medicare or whatever. They fired me and said they can't have nobody else that will take Medicare and said the lady's moving. So basically, they fired me right before Christmas. So this is egregious when it's my own liberal left wants to hurt and harm me. People like Jason Call for Congress calls me unhinged. One of their other candidates ran for city council. She's got a restraining order on me, as I've written her and tried to ask her for help and to get her to listen to the videos. And she was the legislative aide to State Representative Emily Wicks, who comes right out in the restraining order, and it says Representative Emily Wicks folks didn't want to listen to my videos that my mental health therapists told me to put together, so people like lawmakers Emily Wicks and Representative Larson will listen to me and hear the harm done to me and the solution that we were told by Sanders and the U.S. Congressional Nonpartisan Service that we need, the solution, the minimum federal standards that many folks who've advocated for injured workers know we've needed on the table since 1972. I call foul on my own liberal left. I call foul on Senator Sanders, a man who I have great respect for and thought that he was going to be honest, and it's frustrating me. But that don't mean you go jump on the other wagon like Tamarini Borelli did and say, oh, Trump's the Messiah. No. You got both sides hurting and harming injured workers in America here, and neither one of them will jump up to the plate to help us. And at the local level, it could be Republicans or Democrats, but basically it's the top versus the bottom. As the victims try to scream out, we're blocked from getting the truth told. And when I'm told by mental health therapists that we're criminally ordered to go to those treatments, I was court ordered to go to those treatments. For 2 years I spent with that lady, and I spent 6 years with CMAR, basically court ordered the whole time for my mental health treatments. Well, we told the work comp judge the truth, and we told the SSDI judge the truth, but when I want Claudia Alegre, the legislative liaison from CMAR Behavioral Health, to share that same abuse that happened to me and harm as a patient and the solution that we're told needs to be done with Representative Rick Larson, she refuses to, and they fire me. And because I called them out on that is why they took my therapist away and my doctor away. So that's mental health for you in fucking Washington State. I'm tired of this shit. I'm tired of my Berniecrats like Jason Call calling me unhinged, and then not them cutting me off with services like Rick Larson's tied in with my behavioral health treatment services. What we got is healthcare being used as a tool to wage war on people in this community, and I want it stopped. This is egregious, and I'm calling foul, and I'm calling on Senator Sanders to run his mouth and Patty Murray to speak up as human beings are being purged to the streets in our community, into these homeless camps that you all hold your signs for, to say you're going to help us, as you snub your nose at men who stand up and speak up and tell you the truth and what's going on. The truth that his mental health therapist told him to put into YouTube videos and share like this so that he could get his voice heard, not have Emily Wicks, State Representative Emily Wicks, and her legislative liaisons all sit around and snicker and say, we're not going to open or listen to his stuff because he's a racist. Well, maybe he's a racist because you're trying to silence the whistleblowers in our community, work comp and SSDI whistleblowers, and it's egregious and it's foul when it's the Berniecrats in our community that are waging this war on me, and corporate Democrats are sitting around snickering and saying hurrah, and not saying a word either, and the Republicans, of course, are going bravo. Speak up for workers. You're going to represent and say you're going to be the voice of the labor in America, Sawant, then you talk about the minimum federal standards for our workers and the basic human rights that we need on the table, along with 15 an hour and any other goodies we got going. If we can fight and lose on all these other important issues for moral standing, then why not for the workers of America with some basic human rights? How much is your arm worth, Sawant? How much is your arm worth, Senator Patty Murray and Bernie Sanders and Rick Larson and, what was his name, Jason Call for Congress, who's supposed to be taking Rick Larson's place, who was my PCO, and that's what burns me about this people that the Berniecrats tell me I'm doing it the wrong way, I'm advocating the wrong way. They were flipping over cop cars and burning them. They were taking siege to police stations. They even tried to take siege to City Hall in Casper Swan, and almost got in trouble for that. But yet her little operative from New York, who's part of the union, Chris Leone or whatever his name is going to sit and tell me I'm not advocating correctly. And so I share with him a video how Senator Cantwell sent the SWAT team to me, and I have a video where they're there with their guns on me and everything, and he's trying to tell me I don't have enough skin in the game and I'm not doing it correctly, and because I'm not leaving my home, that I need to hit the streets and talk to people. And he doesn't realize I went and talked to the Green Party. And when I was there, I met Tyler Vega of our revolution. And it's Tyler Vega who told me to vote for Scott Staffney, a Republican work comp lawyer who did not agree with Senator Sanders' call for minimum federal standards. No, this is egregious. This is wrong. And when you're a human, you stand up and you speak up for workers' rights, for humans' rights, and patients' rights, not listen to everybody screaming free health care. If you can't get justice in that care, and those doctors are being used as tools and shields to harm and hurt people and rob us of our entitlements, and then hiding behind state med tort laws for their crimes being carried out on us and watering down our on-the-job injuries, so as to put us through a gauntlet instead of just putting us back in the game and privatizing vocational services where they're shopping for a reason to deny instead of a reason to something to still help you shine in some other way, form, or fashion, then this is egregious. We're shelving people. It's ageism, and we have reports that basically people are being shelved at 50 or 55 years of age. And nobody else realizes what's going on. And he says, anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. It's egregious that when it's my own liberal left and Sawant, Kashmir Sawant, who I had great respect for a lot of years. I worked at the hospital in Seattle, at the State Hospital, University of Washington Medical Center, as a certified nursing assistant in the float pool. I worked in nursing for 15 years at the hospitals. I know health care, and I studied to be a paralegal. I didn't get the college degree, but I learned a lot. And I took Poli-Sci 101, and what you people are doing in this community is egregious, taking people down and trying to silence us rather than amplifying our voices as we call out our own lawmakers from each side for failing us. And we can't call out the other side until each side cleans up its own side before America ever gets great again or built back better. Nothing's going to get built back better if you continue to fail America's injured workers, and the federal government itself says 32 states are failing our injured workers. We need to address this issue, not keep telling us to shut up, shush, or go be quiet, or you're unhinged, because we're begging of you to speak up for our human rights for workers in America today. Yes, Sawant. Yeah, Jason Kalpakar. Yes, Representative Rick Larson. Yes, Senator Patty Murray and Representative from Millagea Paul, and most of all, Senator Sanders. You should be ashamed at this point. I have made an ass of myself, and I agree with that. But I've had to do that because people like you are being two-faced with America and trying to sell us use our grief to sell 15 an hour. You use Shannon Allen, her injured Amazon worker story, to sell 15 an hour. She was mad at you for that when she wants to use her stories and our injured workers' grief to sell Republican anti-rank and file union committees at Amazon and GM, her and the world socialists. Why are these world socialists and socialist Sawant all silent about the minimum federal standards our workers need? I call foul. You can't fight the ALEC right. I can accept them. They say they're for bid. That's what they're for. They're for profits over human. They're pretty clear on that. My side, on the other hand, claims to be different. Well, here's your gut check. And Senator Sanders, you said to call you out. I have blatantly called you out all over this internet, as my therapist told me basically to do. She didn't say specifically to call you out. She said to share my truth. Well, as part of that truth is calling you out, Sawant out, Jason Call out, and Mike Sells, and Ortiz Self. All of these community members in this community who were part of our school districts and part school teachers and mental health advisors in our school districts for Ortiz Self. How do you think this is harming people's mental health in America, Ortiz Self, when you try to spin a narrative and tell us people aren't being harmed when people truly are being harmed? And I have the proof and evidence to show that, ma'am, and SSDI and workers' comp, yet you refuse to get honest about that shit. I'll leave it at that. And try to put up a little hip music up there at the top, get the young crowd, maybe the Berniecrats, to listen, because Berniecrats, I'm not against you. I'm actually left of Senator Bernie Sanders, and as many of the injured workers on the right will tell you, he's crazy. And so does the ones on the left. And that's the way it happens. It's like the tobacco industry whistleblower. That's what whistleblowers go through. We have to fight through both sides' shit before we get to the other side. And unfortunately, I don't know how to do it any more than what I've done, but I'm not going to go flipping over cop cars or laying siege to fucking buildings or taking over police buildings, as these Berniecrats and my Revolution brothers and sisters did here in Seattle. And then come and tell me I'm not advocating correctly, as I'm advocating from my home and not leaving it as a person who has a disability and mental health conditions, which I told the young man about, induced, and I can prove by our system failing us and our work comp system failing us, forcing them to litigate, not giving us our band-aids, and forcing us to litigate rather than giving us our band-aids out the gate. HMO doctors' gates that are being used as tools and shields to rob our benefits from us, and that's why you see this homelessness rising on the street. A big part of it, especially when we can trace 25% of the opioid suicide-related deaths back to work comp cases. That's pretty serious. That's an issue. You can't address your war on opiates or whatever you want to call it if you don't address the war on injured workers as well. And so on, for you not to speak up and say what I've been trying to say, as Jason Collier, buddy, calls me unhinged, for calling you all out and Sanders out. It's egregious when Senator Sanders himself told us to call you folks out. Well, Senator Sanders, here I am. I am human. I was a word, and I still am. And by God, you will represent me and my human rights. But I feel for this country.